Today, hello, welcome to another talk by me during Black History Month, where I'm going to tell you stuff they don't tell you in Black History Month. So, an education for me, an education for you. So we're going to talk about two words today. The first word is slavery, and the second word is Caucasian. Where do they come from? If I say to you, if I was to sit you down and say, let's talk about slavery, what do you immediately think? You think, oh, here we go, we're going to talk about black people, Africa, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you're quite right to think that. That's what we think, because that's what we've been taught. I haven't been taught anything else, so why would you think anything else? If I say to you, let's talk about Caucasians, what are you going to think? You're going to talk about white people, yeah? Okay, well, that's what we've been taught, so sure. That's nothing new, is it? Well, let's start off with the word slavery. The Romans gave us that word. Esclavia. Slavia, Yugoslavia, Slavs. Slaves. The land of the slaves. The land of the slaves was the Balkans to the Romans, Eastern Europeans. The Slavs, the slaves. Even Hitler wanted to make the Slavs the slaves of the Third Reich. Because through history, through long periods of history, those very people had been slaves to many different conquering peoples. They'd been slaves to the Romans. They'd been slaves to the Byzantines, which was the Eastern Roman Empire after the fall of Rome in 433 AD, I think. They've been slaves to the Ottoman Turks. They've been slaves to the Persians. These people had a long history of slavery. Especially in a land of southwestern Russia, the Caucasus Mountains, near the Caspian and Black Sea, where the Caucasians lived. The Caucasians, along with the Georgians and the Circassians. In countries we now know as Ukraine and Georgia and Armenia, Chechnya. The people from these regions were highly prized in the slave markets, for their beauty, especially the women. The women were highly prized for their beauty. The young girls, the young Georgian, Caucasian girls were prized for their beauty. This is a Caucasian woman. Let me show you some more. A Caucasian woman. Do you notice her dress? Do you notice her jewellery? Very Indian, very Ethiopian. This is a European woman. I'll show you another picture if I can find her. Another Caucasian woman. Do you notice her jewellery again? Very Indian, very East African. These women, as I said, were highly prized in the slave markets. The Ottomans, the sultans had them in their harems. Concubines. Concubine means female slave. You were allowed 4 wives, but you were allowed as many concubines as you liked. And the sultans used to like to impregnate their concubines and create heirs from the children born from their slave women, rather than that of their wives, because having an heir born from your wife created too much political intrigue. Could create wars, like in Europe, where many wars were fought between brothers and cousins. No, not in Ottoman Turkey it wasn't. If you had a baby with a slave woman, then that child could be your heir, and there's no one there to dispute the fact. So this is how they liked it. So being a slave to the Ottomans wasn't such a bad thing for the women, because you could become the mother of the Sultan. So before Columbus, there was a slave trade, a white slave trade. And most of those who were enslaved came from Eastern Europe. There was no black slave trade. In fact, a Greek historian called Herodotus in the 5th century BC writes that the Persians, who had a great empire at the time, required taxes from countries they occupied and countries around. The region of the Caucasus Mountains sent the Persians 100 girls, 100 boys. The Ethiopians, which in Greek means people of the burnt face, like mine, They sent ivory and gold. No mention of people. No mention of black slaves. So yes, slavery has been black and it has been white. The way we've grown up with it is to think that it's only ever been black. And I'm not saying, oh, slavery was better here or better there. Slavery is just bad anyway. But a slave in the Muslim world had more of a chance. Because if you converted to Islam, you were no longer a slave. No Muslim could enslave another Muslim. But the Muslims carried out atrocities against many Africans and Europeans. We're always taught that the Arabs were bad to Africans. The Arabs were bad to Europeans as well. The Arabs were bad to white, they were bad to black. They were bad to Christians. If you didn't convert to Islam. If you converted, you were a free man. You could do what you like. The Moors were black Arabs. Oh, where are my pictures of Moors? I've got some Moors here. This is a Moor. The Moors, they ruled Spain for 700 years. Black people, Muslims. And people like him bought at slave markets women like her, white women. We've all heard how the Victorian women, the myths of how they were frightened of the dark man taking them into slavery. Here's the dark man, and here's the white woman. It's not a myth, it's a fact. It happened. But all this has been almost written out of history. The fact that white people were too enslaved. How many of you know that? How many of you know that the very word slave comes from Eastern Europe? How many of you knew that for 2,000 years before Columbus discovered America, there was a very healthy slave trade with white people going on in Europe and North Africa? I didn't know it. And I know you didn't know it. Maybe some of you did. So what about the word Caucasian? Well, I've shown you a Caucasian. She doesn't look like any English woman to me. Nor does she. These are Caucasian women from the Caucasus Mountains. The reason why the word Caucasian has been given to white people of Europe was because of a German scientist called Blumenbach, who was studying skulls from around the world in the 18th century, yeah. And one of those skulls was a Caucasian skull of a young Caucasian girl. And he decided that that skull was the most aesthetically beautiful, going along with the myth of the beauty of the Caucasian women. So he decided to call the skulls of European peoples Caucasians, but not just Europeans, North Africans and Indian people. These were people who possessed Caucasian skulls. Now, due to racism, because of the transatlantic African slave trade, because of the cruelty that was being dished out to black Africans, racism was invented, and the racists latched on to Blumenbach calling the skulls Caucasian. They eradicated the fact that he also mentioned North Africans and Indians, and now Caucasian just meant white European. Because of its notions of beauty, the Caucasian was now a white European, based on a skull of a young Caucasian girl. So, Caucasian women like this, who were painted by 18th and 19th century European artists, painting white slave girls to display in art galleries, and people knew they were white slave girls, but over time, these women and their paintings, where they lounged along carpets or beautiful chaise longues, these women just became beautiful women painted in beautiful paintings. And the fact that they were white slave girls also became something that was written out of history. So there you have it. Two words. One associated with black people, came from Eastern Europe and was once associated with those people from Eastern Europe, slaves, and another word, Caucasian, associated with white people, also came from Eastern Europe, and once again was associated with the word slaves. Amazing, isn't it? Now I know they would never have taught you that in school. So until the next time, keep safe and keep reading those history books. The right history books. Thank you.